Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. With the leaves turning and a chill in the air. You know what that means? It's almost Halloween. That magical time of year filled with spooky stories, creative costumes, and, of course, tons of candy. But have you ever stopped to wonder where all these traditions come from? Why do we carve pumpkins, dress up in costumes, and go door to door asking for treats? Well, today we're going on a fascinating journey back in time to uncover the mysterious and surprising history of Halloween. So, grab a pumpkin spice latte, get cozy, and let's dive into the story of one of the world's oldest and most beloved holidays. Our story begins over 2,000 years ago with the ancient Celts, who lived in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France. Their new year didn't start on January 1st. It began on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with hardship. The night before the new year, on October 31st, they celebrated a festival called Samhain, pronounced Samhain. The Celts believed that on this night, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. They thought the ghosts of the dead returned to Earth, causing trouble and damaging crops. So, how did they deal with these ghostly visitors? Well, for one, they built enormous sacred bonfires. People would gather to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, they wore costumes, typically consisting of animal heads and skins. The idea was to either confuse the spirits or to appease them. It wasn't about being scary for fun like we do today. It was a serious ritual to protect their community and their food supply for the coming winter. They would also try to tell each other's fortunes. The presence of these otherworldly spirits was thought to make it easier for the Druids, or Celtic priests, to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, these prophecies were a source of comfort during the long, dark winter. It's incredible to think that the fun act of dressing up has such ancient and mystical roots, isn't it? Fast forward a few centuries. By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into Celtic lands. In an effort to reshape older pagan practices, the Church made a strategic move. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. This day became known as All Saints' Day. The evening before it, the traditional night of Samhain, began to be called All Hallows' Eve, which eventually, over time, got shortened to what we now call Halloween. The Church also established November 2nd as All Souls' Day, a day to honor the dead. These celebrations were sanctioned by the Church and often included parades, bonfires, and dressing up in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. So, instead of completely erasing the old traditions, they were adapted and blended with new ones. This fusion is a huge reason why Halloween is such a rich and layered holiday today. The old Celtic bonfire tradition lived on, and the idea of spirits roaming the earth was folded into a Christian framework. So we have costumes and bonfires. But what about trick-or-treating? For that, we need to look at a few different old European practices. One of them was souling. During the All Souls' Day festivities, poorer citizens would go from house to house and beg for soul cakes, which were small, round cakes. In return, they promised to pray for the souls of the family's dead relatives. This was seen as a way for the community to help each other, both materially and spiritually. There was also a tradition called guising, which was popular in Scotland and Ireland. Young people would dress up in costume and go from home to home, where they would recite a poem, sing a song, or tell a joke in exchange for a treat like fruit, nuts, or coins. Instead of threatening a trick, they offered a fun performance. These practices traveled across the ocean when waves of Irish and Scottish immigrants came to America, especially during the 19th century. When these traditions arrived in America, they began to blend together into something new. Initially, Halloween in colonial America was more common in the southern colonies. The early New England Puritans were very strict and disapproved of such holidays. But as more and more European ethnic groups arrived, a distinctly American version of Halloween started to emerge. People would hold play parties, which were public events to celebrate the harvest. Neighbors would share stories of the dead, tell each other's fortunes, dance, and sing. By the late 1800s, there was a movement to turn Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers than about ghosts, pranks, and witchcraft. Parents were encouraged to take anything frightening or grotesque out of Halloween celebrations. Because of these efforts, Halloween parties for both children and adults became the most common way to celebrate the day. The focus was on games, food, and festive costumes. However, the trick-or-treating we know today didn't really take off until the 1930s and 40s. It was seen as a way for the community to manage and contain the pranks that had become a bit too rowdy. The idea was simple. Give kids a small treat, and in return, they promise not to play any tricks on your home or property. It was an unofficial bargain between homeowners and children to keep the holiday fun and safe for everyone. After a brief pause during World War II due to sugar rationing, trick-or-treating bounced back in a big way during the post-war baby boom. By the 1950s, trick-or-treating was firmly established as a Halloween tradition for children all across the country. Candy companies, of course, capitalized on this, and the rest is history. And what about pumpkins? Carving jack-o'-lanterns is one of the most iconic Halloween activities, but it didn't start with pumpkins. This tradition actually comes from an old Irish folktale about a man nicknamed Stingy Jack. According to the story, Jack was a clever but mischievous man who tricked the devil for his own monetary gain. When Jack died, God wouldn't allow him into heaven, and the devil, annoyed at being tricked, wouldn't let him into hell. He sent Jack off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal into a carved-out turnip and has been roaming the earth with it ever since. The Irish began to refer to this ghostly figure as Jack of the Lantern, and then simply Jack-o'-lantern in Ireland and Scotland. People started to make their own versions of Jack's lantern by carving scary faces into turnips or potatoes and placing them in windows or near doors to frighten away stingy Jack and other wandering evil spirits. When immigrants brought this tradition to the United States, they found that pumpkins, a native fruit to North America, were much larger and easier to carve, and so the turnip was replaced and the classic orange pumpkin jack-o'-lantern was born. So there you have it. From ancient Celtic rituals and medieval Christian observances to Irish folk tales and American community parties, Halloween is a holiday with an incredibly diverse and fascinating history. It's a perfect example of how traditions can travel across the globe, adapt over centuries, and transform into something that brings people together for a night of fun, fright, and festivity. It's a holiday that has constantly evolved, and it continues to change even today. Every time you put on a costume, carve a pumpkin, or share a piece of candy, you're taking part in a tradition that is thousands of years old. How cool is that? It really makes you appreciate the holiday on a whole new level. What are some of your favorite Halloween traditions? Do you have any special family customs for the holiday? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read them. I find it so interesting to see how different people celebrate. And if you enjoyed this little trip through history and learned something new today, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on our future adventures into the stories behind our favorite things. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Stay curious, stay safe, and have a very happy Halloween. See you in the next video.